Hi, everybody. This is Kirk Kinder from Picket Fence Financial. Just want to welcome everybody to this month's webinar. This month is a pretty timely and pertinent thing for a lot of people out there. We're going to talk with Brian Godfrey about the Medicare Annual Enrollment, which is starting up here on October 15th. Just to give you some quick background on Brian, he graduated from the University of Sciences in Philadelphia, and then he spent 5 years as a registered pharmacist. I guess he kind of decided to make a move, and in 2004 he decided to take his knowledge of the healthcare and prescription world to the world of insurance. Brian spent 8 years at a well-known insurance company that specializes in helping the senior population, and then he decided to make that big leap and jump out independently, starting his own firm so he could be in a position to offer the best products from the best companies at the best price. On a personal level, Brian always talks about how he likes to spend time with his family, and he's got a grandchild. He's also part of the Southern Harford County Rotary Club, and he serves on the board of directors at his church, the Bel Air Church of the Nazarene. So, Brian, just like to welcome you to the broadcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Kirk. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity for us to chat. I think, as I mentioned, you know, the Medicare. The whole Medicare arrangement is just this enormous labyrinth that is so hard to navigate for people, and nobody knows exactly what to do.
Yeah, it really is, and creates a lot of anxiety, especially if you don't know where to get information.
Oh, absolutely. And I've had clients in the past ask me to help them, and I can't keep up with it. You know, everything. Not only are there a million options, but it changes. It seems like every single year. So I appreciate you taking time to chat with us today.
My pleasure, and hopefully I can help eliminate some of the questions and concern. But today I kind of wanted to review the annual enrollment period, which is right upon us here. It starts October 15th, runs till December 7th. And this is just going to be an overview. It may lead to a few more questions because a lot of this depends on your individual circumstances. So please don't hesitate to give me a call. That's why I'm here. I do want to point out that I took this information from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They have a guide to Medicare prescription drug coverage and also understanding Part C and D enrollments.
Okay. So you just give us a quick little rundown. What can you do during the open enrollment period? Okay,
well, there's a few things you can do. First, you can change your health insurance. So that means you can switch from original Medicare to a Medicare Advantage type plan, or from a Medicare Advantage back to original Medicare. You can switch from one Medicare Advantage to another Medicare Advantage plan. You can switch from a Medicare Advantage plan that doesn't have drug coverage to one that does, or from one that does to one that doesn't. You can also join a drug plan, switch your drug plan, or drop your drug coverage. So are you thoroughly confused now, Kirk? Slide one, confusion.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So I mean, obviously there's a lot people can do, but let's talk, real quick about the basics.
Sure. We're going to kind of hone in on the Part D prescription coverage because that's where most questions I receive come from. Essentially, the Part D the Medicare prescription drug coverage is also known as Part D of Medicare, and it covers brand and generic drugs. You might see PDP, that stands for Prescription Drug Plan, and these plans can either be added to your Medicare supplement if you have original Medicare, or they can be built into your health insurance if you have the Medicare Advantage type of plan. And all the drug plans are offered by private insurance companies, but they need to be approved by Medicare.
Okay. And can you kind of talk about the ways to get coverage?
Sure. There's basically two ways, two scenarios. The first would be if you do have original Medicare. That means Medicare A and B, or your hospital and doctor coverage, acts as your primary coverage. In that situation, you would add a health insurance plan called a Medicare Supplement or Medigap, and those do not come with drug coverage. So you would add your drug coverage to original Medicare. The other scenario is if you have the Medicare Advantage kind of plan, also known as HMO or PPO, and those have your Part D coverage built into them, and those are also known as MAPDs, Medicare Advantage with prescription drugs. So it's kind of tied to the type of Medicare you utilize.
Okay. And then, what do you have to do about joining a drug plan?
Well, to get a drug plan by itself, you have to have either Medicare A or B. But most people don't just need the drug coverage, they go with a health coverage as well. So in that scenario, you need parts A and B. So if you want to pick a Medicare Advantage kind of plan, then you also have to consider what plans are offered in your service area, since those types of plans vary from even county to county within a state. Now, all drug plans, they will have a standard level of coverage, and that limit is sort of set by Medicare. But above and beyond that, once Medicare approves a plan, then each individual company is going to determine what drugs are going to be covered, what your costs will be, and even what pharmacies that you use. So all of those things obviously affect your bottom line and the level of service that you get. So again, it's really important to compare before you make your choice.
Okay. One big question you get when people hitting that magic 65 is, maybe they're not on drugs right now. They don't have any kind of prescriptions. Do they have to join?
No. The short answer, Kirk, is no. They don't have to join. However, here's what happens when you wait. Essentially, if you don't join a plan with Medicare for drugs when you're first eligible, and you don't have existing drug coverage that is what they call creditable, meaning that it offers at least the same level of coverage as your new plan, then Medicare is going to charge you a late enrollment penalty when you do join down the road. And those penalties, they're added to your monthly costs permanently.
Okay. So,
go ahead.
So basically, if they don't take anything, what do you typically recommend for them?
Well, again, this question comes up a lot, and it boils down to personal preference. There's folks that don't take any medications now that feel that they don't want to pay any penalty, and so what they do is enroll in the least expensive drug plan that they can find because they don't need it for their medications, but just to kind of offset future costs. Other folks, they feel that the penalty is not that significant, and they don't mind waiting a couple years and paying the penalty. Now if you are new to Medicare, you have other things to consider because now you can, you may have your employer coverage, but long and short of it is you do need to look at these types of things each year between October and December.
Okay. Can you kind of just give us sort of a review of how the Medicare drug coverage actually works?
Sure. Yeah, this is good to know when you are comparing plans because there's really 4 areas that most folks want to look at. First is coverage. Are my drugs covered? So you need to know your specific list of drugs. Now, all the drug plans through Medicare will cover generic and brand name, and they all have to carry the same or cover the same categories of drugs, but each plan can choose which drugs in that category they're going to cover. Cost is obviously a big concern. So how much is this going to cost? And furthermore, do I qualify for any extra help? Each plan is going to have a different monthly premium, and how much you pay for each prescription is going to depend on which plan you choose. So convenience, that's another question. Some folks, they're very comfortable with a certain pharmacy and they don't want to make a change. You want to look at that, your pharmacy, to make sure your pharmacy is covered by the plan you go with. And this is good too for people who might live out of state or in another state part of the year. You want to make sure that your plan goes with you to that state. And lastly, Kirk, is quality. Medicare has an interesting tool, they call it the Plan Finder, and they use a star rating system similar to hotels or restaurants, and they assess things like customer service. So those are all pretty well the factors you need to look at.
Okay. And then get to the get to the bottom line, as people say. People are always wondering about cost.
Right, and this one can be a little tricky because there's really several components to your overall cost. For example, some plans will charge a higher monthly premium, and the thing about premium is we're sort of trained, especially when buying insurance, that the premium is all that matters, right, in a lot of cases. But with the drug plans, one plan might have a higher premium, but it comes with lower deductibles, lower copays, and better coverage in the gap. So when you add up the whole year, that plan might be more cost effective overall. So it's really important to kind of look at all the parts.
Okay.
All right, and that first part, Kirk, is your premium. I mean, it is going to matter. You have different plans with different premiums. This is a premium in addition to your Medicare Part B, as in boy premium. And sometimes, if you have that Medicare Advantage plan, your premium for drug coverage will be built right into that plan. Now, some of the folks with a higher income, meaning $85,000 or more for an individual, or $170,000 or more for a joint tax return, those folks are going to have to pay a higher monthly premium. But keep in mind, the premium is only one piece of that puzzle. So the next piece you kind of want to look at is the deductible. Just like with car insurance, the deductible is what you're going to pay for prescriptions before your plan begins to pay. Now, Medicare does limit that deductible. In the upcoming year, it will be $320. And there are plans that have no deductible at all. Now, after you meet the deductible, the next piece is your co-payments or your co-insurance. So co-payment is a set amount, let's say $10, for all drugs on a particular tier. And what these drug plans do is they separate the drugs into tiers. So your generics are going to be on one tier, your brands are on another tier, and you're going to pay a higher copay for the brand tier than you would for generic. Co-insurance simply means that you're going to pay a set percentage of the cost of the drug, for example, 25%. So it's kind of a cost sharing between you and the plan.
Okay. Well, you know, one thing you hear a lot about in the press and from clients, and there's always confusion over the donut hole. Can you kind of talk a little bit to that?
Yes, and it's not a tasty morning treat. Yes, the donut hole is the commonly used term for what they call the coverage gap. And what happens is once you reach a certain limit of spending, it's about $3,000, then you reach what they call this gap. And during that gap, you're going to pay a higher out-of-pocket cost for your prescriptions. And that's why people refer to it as the donut hole, because there's really no coverage in that virtual hole. Now, it's important to note, though, that not everybody will reach that gap, and the way you determine that spending of $3,000 is you add up your deductibles, your co-insurance or co-pays, and anything that you do pay in that gap, and that kind of all counts towards that limit. The only thing it doesn't include is the plan premium. Now, you will get some help in the gap, though, Kirk, and they're actually reducing this gap between now and 2020. So it's a process, but it's heading in the right direction. And what basically happens is between your drug plan itself and the drug manufacturer giving you a discount, you end up saving 55% on brand name drugs. And there's even some plans that come along with better gap coverage, but they might charge a higher premium.
Okay. Interesting. So, you know, how's it kind of work when you do hit that out-of-pocket limit?
All right, so let's say in 2015 you spent your $4,700 out-of-pocket limit. When that happens, now you reach what they call catastrophic coverage, and your copays or co-insurance is greatly reduced. You're either going to pay 5% of the drug cost or between $2 and $7, just depending on what kind of prescription it is, but far better than you would do while you're in the gap.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about when can people, you know, join these plans, switch them, make changes?
Sure. There's really a couple different times. The first is during your initial enrollment. That's when you first become eligible for Medicare. The next period would be if you are disabled. Around the 25th month of disability, you're allowed to join then. Or, of course, for anyone on Medicare during the annual enrollment between October 15th and December 7th. So you may be happy with your coverage, your costs, your customer service, and you may still be on the right plan, but you definitely want to get in the habit of reviewing each fall, because some folks, they decide not to look and they could have changed and saved themselves quite a bit of money, but they just didn't take the time to do it. So that's the biggest point I can stress to you.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, and you know what, Kirk? There are a couple other situations that you're allowed to switch. When you do get extra help, and that's based on your income,
Mm-hmm.
you can switch at any time. And there's some other circumstances. For example, if you move out of your drug plan service area, so the plan's not offered where you now live, you're allowed to pick up a new one. Or if you lose creditable coverage, let's say you had your prescription coverage through your employer, then you retire and your plan retires with you, you can pick up new coverage then. If you enter or live in a nursing home or even leave a nursing home, you're allowed to switch. And these are, I think, kind of interesting. Let's say your plan has a low quality rating as far as Medicare goes. You're allowed to upgrade to a 5-star quality rating, the best rating plan at any time. Or if Medicare considers that your plan is what they call a poor performer, meaning that it got a 3-star or less rating for 3 years in a row, then they will also let you switch.
Okay. So basically, if you're getting close to Medicare or you're on Medicare, you need to think about this at least annually.
Absolutely.
Or if you're doing something, you're moving or becoming a snowbird, making sure that you can have coverage in both areas, or any of these other, nursing homes, retirement, and then the quality of the underlying insurance company. You can do that at any time.
Correct. Yeah, and anytime you have any kind of change like that, it's always good to get some help. Feel free to give me a call.
Okay. And what's the mechanics of actually switching plans?
Okay, well, finally something simple. All you need to do to switch your current drug plan is enroll in a new plan. And you can do that, online or on the phone or fax or mail. But what happens is you will automatically be enrolled in your new plan effective January 1st. You don't need to tell your current prescription plan that you're leaving, and they will send you a letter. The plan that you're leaving sends you a letter and tells you, hey, this was creditable coverage. So you want to hang on to that letter to be able to prove to your new plan that you had coverage before, and this way you avoid the penalty. Now, I should point out one big mistake that some folks have made here. Let's say that you had the kind of plan that's a Medicare Advantage, meaning that your prescription drug program was built in under one coverage. And then you decide to go out there and kind of find a better drug program, but you like your health program. Well, the act of enrolling in a new drug program will disenroll you from not only your current drug program, but your health program as well. And that's because it's the built-in kind of plan. So it can really be an unintended consequence where somebody disenrolls themselves from health coverage, and to make it worse, if they have a health condition that doesn't allow them to get new coverage, it can be really detrimental. So you kind of, definitely want to know what you're doing there.
Yeah, that's a big move. You don't want to screw that up. So take special note if you're in a Medicare Advantage plan.
Correct.
Okay. We talked a little bit before about the penalty if people wait. If they're not taking any drugs when they hit 65 and they delay. Can you talk a little bit about how the penalty really works?
Absolutely. Yeah, the penalty they add to your Part D premium, and basically if you couldn't prove that you had that creditable coverage, and they do give you 63 days to kind of make a decision, but if you didn't have that coverage or you missed your initial enrollment period, and so you were eligible to enroll in a prescription plan, but you chose not to for whatever reason, that's where you get the penalty. And the way they calculate that is they say, okay, what is the national premium? And in 2015, it's $33 and change. They're going to multiply that by 1% for every single month that you were eligible, but you weren't covered. So for example, if you chose to go 3 years without having a drug program, through Medicare, they're going to add a 36% increase to your plan's premium indefinitely. So now another thing to look at too is that base premium is going to go up each year, so your total premium will go up each year with it.
Okay. Yeah, so that can add up pretty fast when you figure it's going to be a permanent penalty. So
It really
so
can, yeah.
so what are kind of the things people need to do to avoid that?
Best thing you can do is to join a drug plan when you're first eligible, uh, unless maybe you have a spouse still working or you're still working and you have other creditable coverage. As long as you have that coverage, you don't need to join and you won't be penalized. But it's important to then enroll within 63 days when that current coverage does end, and you'll avoid the penalty there. And again, make sure you hang on to the letter from that company you might be leaving to prove that you had that creditable coverage.
Okay. Any other things, when people are thinking of making the switch, what should they be focused on again?
Sure, just to kind of recap here, you want to make sure you have creditable coverage now, or don't you? But that's a good question to ask. Should you keep your current drug coverage if you do have it? Is the plan for Medicare prescriptions in the area that you live in, and does it cover the drugs you take? Is there a particular pharmacy that you want to use? Do you spend half the time in the year out of state? You want to make sure that plan goes with you. And what are the quality ratings on that plan? Because obviously service is important.
Okay. Give us a quick rundown, Brian, of sort of what you do for your clients, how you go about the process.
Sure. The first thing I want to do is just get to know you. We're going to meet and talk. I want to listen to you, find out what is most important to you and why is it important. Once we're comfortable working together, then we kind of uncover the facts, and then I go shopping for you. So whether it be a Medicare plan or insurance plan of another kind, I'm going to go find you the best and present them to you. I'll educate you on how those options work and answer your questions, and then you decide what works best for you. At the very least, I'd want to set up an annual review meeting just to make sure things are the way they need to be. But of course, you'd have my cell phone, and you can call me at any time.
Okay, great. Well, here's Brian's contact information. If you need it, you can see his phone number and email address. I encourage anybody that has questions, because this is just an enormous labyrinth to try to navigate. So if you need help, definitely give Brian a call. Brian, I just want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us and enlighten us on how the process works.
Yes, thank you, Kirk. I'm glad I could be here and help. And I do want to point out quickly on my website, it is a brand new site. It's under construction, so if you click there and I'm not there quite yet, just hang on. I'll be out there shortly. But yeah, I'm glad I could spend some time and hopefully eliminate some confusion. And again, please don't hesitate to call or contact me if you need the help.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Kirk. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.